Welcome to HSR Motorsport.
Hello and welcome everybody back once again to another HSR weekend. We are here at Barcelona for Season 5, Round 4 of this amazing championship, and I am Mike Noss. Joined alongside me tonight is none other than Mr. Kieran Mogg. Kieran, how are you doing on this fine British evening?
I am very well, thank you. Yes, how about you? How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Over here in the States, it's about afternoon, getting on into it here, 8 p.m. over in the UK time, and we are here getting down into what is going to be another amazing race. It's a greasy track out there for quali. I see some of the drivers are struggling with that at the moment, and going to be trying to set themselves up for what is going to be an extremely important qualifying for the drivers tonight, to set themselves up for the championship here. And why don't we talk briefly about that? You can see the drivers' names on screen right now. The top 10 of the AM category. Starting us off is going to be Emery up at the top with Alex alongside Johan Human in third right now with Casper down in fourth. Tony Ray with Rodcroft in fifth. Gavin Tyler in sixth with Andrea Lucian in seventh. Goss Christoph in eighth. Ben Knight in ninth. And rounding out your top 10 is Ray Rowcroft. Wait a second. Oh, that's both of the Raycroft brothers. Excuse me, Rodcroft brothers. In the top 10. And moving on to the Pro-Am category here.
Yes, we have Jim Fox currently in first position. Then we've got Mick Neville in second. I'm struggling to see the the names actually on this leaderboard. Don't suppose you can carry on for me. I can't quite read them.
Make it a little easier for you. How about that?
Augustus Janssen? Is that?
I think so, yes.
Followed by Mark Nautilus, then John Philip Pfeiffer, Daryl. Can't quite. Literally, I'm not able to read it. Sorry, I can't quite read it on my screen. Followed by Carl Warbottom, and then William Van Lagen, Craig Alford, and David Janos.
For reference, folks, you can blame Mike Noss on the production here for the poor size of reading here. This is, of course, Mike Noss on the production as well as on the comms here. So doing what we can. And on to the pro category. These are the gold plate drivers or white plate drivers on track. Matt Jordan topping off the charts at 52 points with Ernst Limburg in second. Alex Casanede in third with Adrian Zay in fourth. Adam Dutton in fifth. Craig Hewlett in sixth. Simone Masi in seventh. Down to Johannes in eighth with Roman in ninth. And rounding out your top 10 is going to be Adam in the BMW M4 GT3. Now, we have the qualifying firmly underway at this stage. Drivers setting lap times, and currently the AM drivers just getting ready to finish on up. And as we pop down here to the action, we can see the 413 car out on circuit, just finishing up its laps as well. Going down the final sector here and into everybody's favorite corner complex, of course, that final chicane, which is coming up after this.
Yes, indeed. Obviously, they got rid of it from the Formula One calendar due to, well, I think it's fairly obvious, and they've taken that outer loop now, completely ignoring that chicane of 14 and 15, instead going straight into the last corner, which then now would be turn 14. But on this layout for the race tonight, we do have 16 corners in total, including that chicane. And it really is quite a difficult little complex, especially when you're going to have a big group of GT cars. We'll see the number 5 McLaren go off that. I can only assume that is just to try and get the setup correct and go back into the garage. But yeah, so going through that little corner complex of the chicane, especially with a big group of GT cars, it's going to be very, very tricky for the drivers tonight. It's bad enough when the conditions are good, but as you can see, it is raining, and look at the size of those curbs. So rain, slippery conditions, and those curbs, they're really going to have to be on it tonight.
Yeah, certainly will, and especially with the tire wear that is often known around this circuit, you may have about a 0.75 mile long straight, or 0.65 mile, about 1,000 meters down to the first corner on the exit of the final, but all the way through there, as you had mentioned, there are a lot of corners in between, and here on this Barcelona circuit that we're using, 16 corners, 9 to the right and 7 to the left, meaning that it's fairly even tire wear. However, it is going to still be an issue on both sides, but with the rain, is that going to play a little bit of a saving grace for some of these drivers' rubber out on circuit? And for whatever reason, my ACC TV is not letting me, there we go, being very slow. There's wanted to wait to select some of these drivers and do it all at once. My goodness.
Yes, it might be a saving grace for their tyres, but one thing that it might not be a saving grace for is their ego. We've got Rev up in the chat on YouTube, and he said, I was genuinely considering retiring just for the ego I won't, which I can only imagine he is struggling in these conditions. Obviously, I won't say the exact the wording that's been used there because it's like quite fruity, but it's good to see. Obviously, the chat is nice and populated. We've also had Michael just say, "Hey, Mike, good to hear you again." So it's obviously great to have you back on the comms. Obviously, unfortunately, we missed you last week, but it's nice to have you back.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. It's glad to be back, as I now have my power back as well. The Pacific Northwest faced one of its most brutal storms since, I don't know, probably about 2010, 2008, something like that. And it's been about 10 years since we've had anything of the sorts, and I haven't lost power in 10 years where I live. But no, it's decided to change that and had my power out for like 3 days. It's absolutely brilliant. You have to love it, but no, you don't.
No, absolutely. I mean, yeah, it's obviously a shame that you had to miss last week, but obviously the most important thing was keeping safe. And obviously we're all happy that you are safe and you are back now for this race. And it's going to be quite a tricky race because, like we say, there's obviously difficult conditions. And we've seen so far the racing has been mixed in terms of aggression, in terms of the pacing as well. We saw last week that there was quite a big push at the start, then it sort of died down a little bit in terms of just the sheer amount of pushing that they were doing and the amount of aggressiveness that they were using as well. And then obviously it went up a little bit towards the end. So I can only assume it's going to be somewhat similar today, but with that rain, it's going to play into the hands of some of the quicker drivers, some of the more experienced drivers, and it's really going to go against some of the less experienced drivers. So I think what we're going to see today is an even bigger disparity between the front and the back of the grid, which is going to make the racing even more interesting.
I think certainly it will, especially to take a look at the likes of Jim Fox here, who is in that HSR RKR McLaren. He took the win last week in the silver category at COTA. However, this time around, he is struggling, it seems, on this Barcelona circuit, which is surprising. The tracks, they have a lot of similarities to them in terms of the sweeping nature of some of the longer corners. Obviously, COTA takes a little bit of every single circuit and brings it to it. Barcelona is a test track. You got a lot of runoff. You have a lot of low curbs for these drivers to take, and it seems right now Jim Fox, well, he's struggling at the moment. He's up 4/10 though on this lap, so looking to improve at the very least, but Mark is absolutely dominant at this time. The 666 on the top by, well, 10,000ths of a second.
Yeah, absolutely. It's yeah. The margins really are incredible, especially when you consider the fact that these drivers are not professional drivers. They do this for the sheer love of it. And well, just we're saying that the 666 has just gone a 149.1, smashing Carl out of first position. Currently 7/10 ahead. And as we all know, 7/10 is a big gap. Obviously, we've still got 14 minutes, I should say, left of this qualifying session. So anything could still happen in terms of that. But yeah, I don't want to say what are your predictions, but what are you predicting to happen? Let's put it that way.
I mean, just looking at it from the past, Jordan in the 22 Bentley is going to be my choice, the driver of choice, in my opinion, to take the win tonight. If I had to pick one driver out of this mix of very talented drivers as well. But just looking Matt Jordan, he has taken the win on Spa, he's taken the win at Coda, and he's looking to make it a hat trick tonight for the Pro category. Now, talking about the Pro-Ams and the Am category, that's a bit more up in the air. Obviously, Jim Fox, as we touched on earlier, is leading that at 52 points with 2 wins to his name as well. That was round 1 at Donington and round 3 at Coda. But Nick Neville, a driver that is certainly not one to count out. He's currently 1.4 seconds off the time, but that 888, second in points right now, took the win when Jim Fox couldn't. And is he going to be able to do so tonight? Well, he's got a long ways if he wants to make that dream become a reality.
Yes, absolutely. Obviously, he's had a tremendous season so far to season 5, and like you say, in Kota, he just drove away at the front of the grid. It was a very, very impressive evening in that Bentley, but it could be a case of the Bentley's quite a stable car. Is it going to be okay? Is it going to be suited to this track a little bit more than some of the others? And we've got someone in the chat as well saying it'd be interesting to see how much each driver has spent on practice, and that is a very, very good point. And also, have they read the fine print? Had they read that it was going to be a wet session? Because have they been practicing in the dry? Which means that all their practice essentially has gone completely out of the window. And I think one thing that's quite interesting about Barcelona especially is there's a bit of elevation change. You don't quite see it too much on TV cameras, and even in the game, really. You can't quite get a proper grasp of just how much elevation there is. But it's also quite renowned for off-camber turns, on-camber turns. As you're coming through turn 10 and 11, up towards the right-hander and then down towards the chicane, that is a very off-balance corner. The track really kind of falls away from you as a driver, and I mean, I've spent countless times around Barcelona on ACC completely spinning out there because the weight transfer as you're going over, as we'll see this Bentley are just about to do now. So come to the left-hander. This next left-hander is so off-camber. I've gone backwards so many times here, but you can just hook on that inside curb just to try and straighten that run through. And that is obviously going to be the ideal line. But when all the cars come through at the start of the race, all of them bounding round, you might have 2, 3 wide even at some points. Are we going to see some spinners? Because, like I say, the off-camber nature of Barcelona it can really catch you out if you're not careful. And especially when we're talking about these slippery conditions, it's really going to be an interesting evening.
No, absolutely. Especially you talk about the first sector in particular, down through Elf and into Renault and through Repsol. That is where a lot of the bumping and banging, I predict, will happen through those first few corners. Obviously, as the drivers settle on through Kamsa and up through Verth, I think things will settle down a bit, but obviously through those very high speed and aggressive corners, you can really throw discretion to the wind and potentially make up some positions, at least on the run down to Lacacia. That is where we're going to see some lunges, some moves on for the race. But yeah, it will be very interesting. And with the Barcelona circuit, I think lap 1 especially, we're going to see the elbows out as overtaking as the race goes on gets more and more difficult. So qualifying, as I mentioned earlier, going to be absolutely crucial for these drivers to get the perfect lap to set themselves up in a decent position. Now, one other thing that I'm noticing here, and everyone probably is as well, is, oh man, we're giving an awful lot of screen time to Mark here. Yeah, I agree. My ACC TV just does not want to work. This is, you gotta love live TV, folks. Yeah, we'll try a reconnect when we get into the race. I don't know.
In all fairness, I wasn't focusing too much on what was going on screen because I'm looking in the YouTube chat at the moment, and Mr. Remco Ottens, we had a bit of a chat with him before we went live, and you asked him, very sensibly, are you racing tonight? He chuckled and said no, and now he's in the chat saying about what tyres people should be using. Now, Remco, if you're so sure about this, I think you should jump in and race yourself. He is saying that slicks would be his choice. Now, whether he's saying that because he actually believes it or because he wants people to be spinning and he wants the entertainment factor, I don't know. And he's, quite frankly, he's chickening out, I think, in my opinion.
I'd have to agree wholeheartedly on that one. Come on, Remco. We all know you've got the talent and the skill to at least be a spinning expert that you often claim that you are. Why not go and prove it as Nick Neville here? He's trying to do so. He comes to the line there, and that's going to be enough for third quickest. Not a bad lap. Just a blink of an eye off of pole position.
Yeah, absolutely. And Remco has also just commented in the chat saying, I can't. Probably locked entry list. So he's just making excuses now, which that is a racing driver excuse, and quite a feeble one.
Yes, it certainly is. Oh my goodness, this is so busted. I am so sorry, chat. I don't know why nothing wants to work for me. This is so infuriating.
Well, you can prepare as much as you want, but nothing ever goes to plan, especially when we're live. That's just the nature of live broadcasting, unfortunately. But while we're sorting this out then, why don't we have a bit of a chat about Barcelona as well? Because you have prepared a wonderful fun fact sheet. So would you like to take it away and give the people some wonderful, random, and probably completely useless facts?
Well, I wouldn't call them useless. That's a bit harsh. But yes, I would love to give some relatively useful facts. I'm glad you asked, as there are some quite avid aviafauna-related comments that need to be made, of course. For anyone curious, as I know everyone is, there are roughly 200 to 250 different bird species around the area of Barcelona. Now, 13 of those birds can be chalked up to inside of the Barcelona Cathedral. There are 13 geese that live inside the cloister, symbolizing the age at which Saint Eulalia, the city's patron saint, was martyred.
Yes, absolutely. And there's also not many skyscrapers in the city centre because Barcelona's strict building regulations ensure that it's largely free of skyscrapers, which it's quite nice because that means you can then go and see all the historical buildings that are currently there. But one thing that I found that was really interesting when I visited at the start of this year was there is an Arc de Triomphe in the city centre. Now, I'm not saying it because it looks like an Arc de Triomphe, I'm saying it because it is actually called an Arc de Triomphe. So I walked past it thinking I was in the wrong country. And then there's also... sorry, we're about to continue.
No, we're just struggling. I'm just getting frustrated at my live TV broadcasting as things refuse to work as they often do when I come back. I do apologize for any technical mishaps, folks. I don't know what to say, to be completely honest.
No problem. I'll continue with the facts then. So, one thing that was a bit interesting was at the start of this year, as we see the car just going off onto the gravel there. So, at the start of this year, Barcelona started to undertake some building work. Now, you may have seen, obviously, at the start of the year that there was certain doubt as to whether Barcelona will be continuing to host Formula 1 Grand Prix for the foreseeable future. Now, as we follow this car just coming round onto the pit straight now, look to the right-hand side, and you see that building, that big tall building on the right-hand side. Yeah, that was completely and utterly clad in scaffolding at the start of the year. It was a complete building site. So you had the GTs, LMPs and Formula 4 all testing and doing some winter races here at the start of the year. They had to walk through a building site to get to their cars. When they were coming back into the pit lane, they were also having to essentially drive through a building site. The dust was everywhere, and it actually caused quite a nasty accident on the start-finish straight. Somebody came out the last corner and completely binned it into the pit wall. So yeah, for the start of this year, it was essentially a building site that had some cars going past in the background. Yeah, Barcelona has undergone some interesting changes this year as well. You can see the car going off into the gravel once again. You can see how the track conditions out there are very, very slippery. And although Remco was saying in the chat that he thinks that slicks would be the best choice, we've also got... hold on, let me just find my bearings a second. Also saying that... I completely lost it. Well, somebody had mentioned about if the game is actually going to dry out, or is it going to continue with this consistent just drizzle coming down, because As I say that, it might just be my screen. No, there is still rain coming down, yes. So it could just be consistent throughout the entire, 60-minute race that we have coming up. So, yeah, conditions really are going to be the talk of the next hour, I think. That is really going to be what we're going to be talking a lot on. It's going to be tyre wear, it's going to be conditions, it's going to be how can people cope with this. As we see, obviously, the pros currently out and setting their times. We've got Dixon currently on a 1:47.6, Hewlett on a 1:48 points. What's that? 1, and Lindbergh's in third place as well. Just as I say that, no, Hewlett goes and takes provisional pole position. Well, obviously talking about Jordan earlier, he's currently 6/10 off, so maybe that Bentley just isn't quite working for him quite as much as he wants, and he's just trying to find that window of performance.
It very well might be. We are going to take a quick little pause here. Apologies, chat, and we're going to head on back to the B-roll while we wait here, just because I need to try something because things are broken. And we're just going to fix this real quick. We can do it live, folks. Again, I do apologize for anyone that is requesting to see certain drivers. I see your requests and I hear them. I just cannot follow them because my race director doesn't want to work. So let's make this dream become a reality and hope that turning it off and back on again helps it. Let's see.
Well, that's always the fix in IT, isn't it? If it doesn't work, turn it off, turn it back on again, and it usually fixes everything.
It actually might have. I'm not even joking, believe it or not. I think it actually did just fix everything. So let's get back down to the game here. All right, there we go. We're back into the action, and all of my buttons seem to be working now. So we take those. Roman Hosko, all of his buttons don't seem to be working. He has taken the alternate chicane layout and taking the polystyrene with him.
I think he just yearns for the other track layout by the looks of it. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see a few more people using that that little bit. They'll say it's a mistake, but deep down we really know they prefer that other layout.
And I'm just happy I fixed it. Remco
yes,
trying to save the day behind the scenes here. He's DMing me race control to make sure that I can get it. Appreciate you, Remco. Shout out to Remco Ottens behind the scenes for getting the production, at least trying to help the production get back on its legs. But we've gotten the sea legs are now gone. We're back under it, and we are into the qualifying firmly. Miles Dixon chasing down pole position, 45 thousandths of a second separating those two drivers. Now, I don't know if you're familiar, Kieran, or excuse me, with exactly what can happen in that time, but do you happen to know what can happen in about 0.45 or 0.045 of a second?
I'm pretty sure it's a fraction of a blink. So I think a blink takes, is it 0.3 of a second?
You give or take. It's a slow blink, but yeah, we'll give you that one.
So essentially that gap is worth, what, 6? You can have 6 of those gaps before you blink.
Correct. Wait, 6? You'd have, sure, you'd have like 5. But yeah, 6 or 5. But yeah, but the fact is, a sailfish can swim roughly 7 feet in that time. Now, I know I said feet, so anyone across the country or across the globe is like, oh, well, what the heck is a foot? Well, what the heck is a kilometer? That's my question to answer that one, so we'll leave it at that. Big thanks to everybody joining us. I hope everyone is having a lovely evening, afternoon, or morning, wherever you are in this fine world. Qualifying, getting down to the wire here. Craig Hewlett has given it his all, and is it enough? Miles Dixon seems to be the only driver that can compete. Simone Masi down in third by 0.4 of a second, a significant margin, but Jordan pretty much tying in the Bentley with third position. Not enough, though, to get on the podium. Can Miles Dixon find the pole position? He rounds the final corner now, heads to the line, and he gets it by 20 thousandths of a second.
That is that is where you find the little margins. That is, okay, this is what I really love about racing, because you can really sort of spot the really good drivers, the drivers that know every inch of their car, every inch of the track, and they know it's not going to be a case of that a couple of hundredths of a second was in one corner. It's probably he's taken a couple of thousandths out of each corner, and the fact that his brain has been able to compute that and then put it into action to go 200ths faster than Hewlett is what makes it so impressive. Obviously, we've got a couple of other people just finishing their laps up here as well. Still got a couple of people that haven't quite completed the lap yet. But it looks like Dixon might just be able to hold on for that pole position, and that is absolutely incredibly impressive as the Mustang just comes around the final corner now. As Cascade, can he do anything? Cassidy, sorry, in 9th place at the moment. Where does he finish? He finishes in 9th place, 9/10 behind Dixon on pole position.
A little bit of an overcommitment there out of the final few corners for that Ford Mustang GT3. Still, though, 9th position, nothing to shake a stick at. He's ahead of the silver category, which matters to him. Silver category pole position currently being held by the 666, as well as down to the red-plated categories. We had Emre Özdaru, the driver for pole in the AM category. Now, as the race gets ready to roll on over here, as I had mentioned the predictions, or you asked about the predictions at the top of this qualifying session, and I put my money on Matt Jordan. Well, Matt Jordan down in 4th position here. He's got a little bit of work to do, and with Barcelona being the difficult overtaking track that it is he going to be able to find the win here tonight? Got stiff competition just looking at the qualifying times.
Yeah, I mean, in fourth place, he's obviously got a little bit of a gap up to the front two, especially, but you can never count him out. That's one thing that, although I've only been sort of involved in this for a couple of weeks, I have already spotted that you cannot count out that Bentley, because he always finds the pace. And he might be a couple of tenths away from current pole position, but you can bet your bottom dollar that he is going to find that pace in the next hour.
Indeed, he will. I also have a request from Remco Ottens to see how my pronunciation is for our P7 driver, the number 6 Aston Martin of Gio. Oh man, I will admit, now that he's put the pressure on me, you can bottle it a lot easier. But it's not Verbruchi as I thought it was in the previous week. It's much more German than that, and it's
Verbrugge, isn't it? Or
yeah, Verbruch. Yeah, Verbruch is what I'm going with, Remco. How do you give me a positive, or do you give me a negative on that one? I'll let you either go in chat or DM. Either one is acceptable. But as well as he's laughing. All right, that was not it. That was not it. We'll swiftly move back down to the qualifying, or to the gridding then, and let's get in here and meet our drivers. I'll go when we do 10-10 for this one. I forgot to go over that beforehand. But starting us off at the top, it is going to be Miles Dixon in the number 94. Alongside is going to be Craig Hewlett in the second grid slot here tonight on row 1. Simone Massi lining up in row 2 for the number 69 Aston Martin. The Italian Stallion running strong in 3rd, with Matt Jordan alongside in 4th. Adrian Zay, 5th fastest for the number 50, with Ernst Limbers in the Charging Bull. Now, bullfighting was banned back in 2010, so we'll see how Ernst is going to manage on the grid here tonight with the Lamborghini. We have Gio Verbruchi, which is what we're going to go with because of pronunciation and whatnot, as I am an ignorant American. I can't pronounce Belgian. But he is running in 7th position. Mark Henbury in 8th. Alex Casadilla in 9th. And rounding out your top 10 is going to be Adam Ostercharts.
In 11th, we've got the Hosco in the BMW. We've got Jackson in the Ferrari on 12th position. In 13th, we've got Mayer in the McLaren. 14th, we've got Westholm in the Aston Martin. 15th, we've got Newslings in the Bentley. 16th, we've got Bubbins in the Ferrari. 17th, we've got Neville in the Porsche. 18th, we've got Warburton in the Aston Martin. 19th, we've got Dutton in the McLaren. And 20th, we've got Redhead in the Mercedes.
Jean-Philippe Pfeffer in 21st, with Aaron Manship, one of the fan favorites, in 22nd. We have Emre Özdaru leading the red plates off tonight for the Turkish driver, as well as leading the point standings into tonight for the 343. Jim Fox, 24th, with Alex Urwanch behind in 25th. David Llanos, 26th, with Tony Rucroft in 27th. Ben Knight 28th. Kasper Zawada in 29th. Daryl Kruger in 30th. And last but not least on the grid is Gross Christoph in the Cavallina Rampanti, number 57.
Yes, a 31 strong field. It's going to be an interesting one. We've been talking all during qualifying about this first lap. These first couple of opening laps, at least, are going to be so crucial, especially for the driver on screen, Miles Dixon in the number 94 Ford Mustang. He is going to be thinking now, right, he's got Hewlett behind him, he's got Massey, he's got Jordan, he's got Zay, he's got Limburg. These are some incredibly quick drivers. How is he going to keep them behind? And the easiest way for him to keep behind is don't make any mistakes, keep to your braking points, keep to your reference points, and just drive safely. Don't try and push it too quickly initially, because this is a long race. It's 60 minutes. Anything could happen in 60 minutes. He can't win it on the first corner, but he can definitely lose it.
He certainly can, and with that raw American horsepower, it is enough torque to tenderize an elephant with that 5.4-liter Coyote-based naturally aspirated V8, generating about 565-ish brake horsepower, give or take. It's kind of unknown still, and a absolute, as I said, boatload of torque, enough to pull down the Sistine Chapel or any one of those old buildings that's in the heart of Barcelona, like the Arc de Triomphe. It'll make easy work of that. And that's just, again, down to the raw American grunt, as it should be.
Yes,
you tell
indeed.
I'm biased.
Well, yes, indeed. Well, I'll tell you what, then. Following up, we've got the McLaren, Aston Martin, Bentley, Aston Martin, 4 Brits bringing up the rears as well. So I can be quite biased as well. I'm choosing the McLaren. That wonderful, is it the 670? I believe that is. The 650, sorry. I do
720.
apologise. 720 is it?
Yes.
Right, 720, even better, yes. Which obviously is an incredible race car. It's got that astoundingly loud exhaust as well. I don't know if you ever stood behind a 720 race car, but it is unbelievably loud and it sounds incredible. So although you have that V8 grumble coming from the Mustang, the 720, I do prefer it.
I will admit, it's going to be a close fight. Both of these cars were using an older BOP, so both cars are going to be rocket ships in a straight line, and that is going to come massively into play when it comes to overtaking here at Barcelona de Catalunya. Here we go. Drivers lined up on the start-finish straight. It's Miles Dixon on pole position alongside Craig Hewlett. 1 hour on the clock, and we are green, and the McLaren shot out of the start like a cannon. Down to the first corner they go. The McLaren has the advantage, but as we get into phase 2, we can see the raw American grunt getting down to the inside of the braking zone. It's going to be 2x2 Noah's Ark all the way through the grid, and Craig Hewlett takes the lead early on. Cars scattering into the back there as they take the sausage curbs to avoid the carnage and chaos that ensued. Behind them, Matt Jordan trying to slide in the Bentley, doing a good job of keeping ahead of Simone Massey. Adrian Zay still behind with Ernst Limbers, who got by Verbruhi, but everybody else fairly nip and tuck as we get into the middle sectors here of the first lap of Barcelona.
Yeah, you can see Hewlett there on the entrance to turn 3. Oh, was it say the Aston Martin goes straight inside of the Bentley as well? That is not a great opening lap for Adrian Zay in the Aston Martin. That is exactly what he didn't want. He is, I mean, what's he now? 11th, 12th place or something along those lines. Not completely out of it, but not great. Here we go. Here's a replay. Oh, he just couldn't quite bring the braking together. Just outbraked himself. I'm guessing he probably locked up as well in these slippery conditions. This is exactly what we're talking about. He couldn't get the car to slow down, and once he started locking up, that was it. He was on a one-way train into the side of that Bentley.
Yeah, and that was Matt Jordan actually getting a bit out of shape. My choice for the win here tonight, and he is struggling in these wet conditions here at Barcelona. Clearly, Coda was more the favored track as he battles along with the other Bentley out on track, the Garage 59. Oh, excuse me. Who is that Bentley? Why is my timing charts so messed up? Either way, Adam Westholm currently running in 10th position with Matt Jordan ahead, and Adam Ostercharts in the BMW is currently ahead of him. There we go, as I can see that. We've drivers taking their one mandatory pit stop here on lap 1 as well. Carl Warburton is also round in the final corner. Oh, that's gutting, and immediately back into pit lane. Some drivers, though, electing to serve their stops here early on, and we can see the fighting happening down the start-finish straight. Some drivers are saying, nope, that's enough of that. I just want to avoid this.
Yeah, see Mark Hennebryn just going side by side there with the Aston Martin, just trying, sorry, the McLaren's, the Lamborghini do. No, that is an Aston Martin. I was right the first time. It's past 2 Aston Martins through turn 1 and turn 2 as well. That Acura NSX clearly starting to work a little bit more than the Aston Martins in this opening stage of the race. We saw last week Mark Hennebryn had quite a good running at COTA. Can he replicate that this evening? We'll find out. You can see at the moment he's just keeping it nice and steady, but he's just having that bit of oversteer into the exit of turn 4, coming down the steep braking zone into turn 5 as well, keeping it quite nice and sedate. David Janos in the Ferrari, number 24, 17th place currently. He's got a little bit of making up to do if he wants to. He's currently stuck behind the Aston Martin as well, but he's got a charging... he's got the Aston Martin behind him as well. So he's an Aston Martin sandwich at the moment. So Brit, Italian and Brit. Everything's all happening at the start of this race. Obviously, like Mike said, we've got drivers currently in the pit lane to... well, we've actually got multiple drivers in the pit lane for their pit stops. We've also got some drive-throughs as well. I'm assuming for those opening lap contacts that we saw. But up at the front, Craig Hewlett is just trying to... he's lost the lead back against the Mustang, and now he's trying to defend against the Aston Martin that is right behind him of Massey. Down towards the first corner, this is a prime overtaking opportunity. He's not defending though, he's secure in the knowledge of what his braking can do in that 720. So for the time being, Massey is just collecting himself, just trying to stick to the rear gearbox of that McLaren. Dixon is just starting to pull away a little bit in first place as well. He's just over a second ahead of these two. So clearly that Ford Mustang at the moment is possibly the strongest car out there.
Yeah, like water off a duck, he's trying to peel away from this field, and Craig Hewlett trying to hold on to the best of his ability, but he is slipping, and again, as you said, finding that pressure from Simone Massey, which I would imagine Simone doesn't have too much of an intent right now to overtake Craig Hewlett and get into a long-winded bout that's just going to end up with them getting overtaken by Gio Verbrugge, which has managed to make up quite a few positions, actually 3 positions to be exact, into 4th, with Yannis Mayer up 8 positions from 13th into 5th. He's at the back of this train right now, and maybe even is going to be contesting for the lead at some point. Is this the wet weather specialist of Yannis Mayer, the man that you had the pleasure of sharing the booth with last week?
Yes, it looks like it. I mean, he was saying that he struggles to keep up with the front runners sometimes, but from what I'm looking at, he's closing in on the Aston Martin currently of Verbrugge in front of him. So we're possibly not going to count him out. I've not seen him race personally at the moment because, like you say, I was on the comms with him last week. But yeah, he's finding some pace in that McLaren at the moment. Down start finish straight. Now, what you were saying obviously with Hewlett and Massey, does Massey go for the move straight away? Possibly not. He's going to conduct himself. But does Yannis go for the move straight away? He's not quite close enough at the moment by the looks of things. He's just a little bit too far back from that McLaren. Sorry, from the Aston Martin. As we look a little bit further back, Roman Hosko in the BMW has got the Bentley, another BMW, and even the Aston Martin a little bit further back behind him. But he's just trying to stick on the rear gearbox of Yannis, just trying to follow with him. And if anything, actually, Yannis is starting to fall a bit away from Verbrugge in that Aston Martin, number 6, currently in 4th place.
It does seem to be that way, and can they hold on? What the heck has happened back here as we have a triple yellow flag out with cars scattered every which way like a pool table? Let's see, down to the first corner, we're 2x2, this is riding with Casper. What the Ferrari caught the curb and went bowling, quite frankly. That was a dramatic incident that, unfortunately, David Janos, I think, has to be put at fault for.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, unfortunately, the other two were basically just helpless spectators in that accident. It was, yeah, definitely unfortunate in the way that happened. But yeah, these things can happen, especially in the wet. People make mistakes. Drivers make mistakes. As currently in the Ferrari, obviously coming through to turn 7 and turn 8. This is where I was talking. It's a little bit off camber in these sections. It can be very, very easy to just drop a wheel off the track and completely ruin your race. But for the time being, he seems to have collected himself a little bit from that accident, and yeah, we'll see how he can get on and if he can recover the positions that he's lost.
I'm just curious here, with Emery getting caught up in this and the other drivers involved, Casper, Zwada, are they going to be a little bit more hot-headed and a bit, I often like to use the analogy of the red mist that these drivers can see sometimes, that it turns into a red fog and then a red sort of, well, water, and then eventually that red barrier off to the side if you're not careful enough. And with drivers like Nick Neville and Casper Zwada just giving it their all right now and not giving each other a break in the slightest, it's just going to attribute that maybe a little bit more, and you're going to start to feel the aggression, feel the pressure, and he's certainly feeling that right now. The Porsche down the start-finish straight, a drag race with a McLaren 720S, 3 wide as there's a car exiting pit lane down into the braking zone, and the Porsche has the advantage. Nick Neville wins the drag race, and the naturally aspirated flat 6 is quicker than a turbocharged V8 in a straight line.
Yeah, a little bit, but I think, to be honest, he made the move on the braking there. If you saw that back, the braking from the Porsche was just so impressive. You can see he just went that little bit deeper into turn 1, and turn 1's a very difficult one to get right. The approaching speed is something like 170 miles an hour, something along those lines. You probably fact check me there, Mike, but it's something along those lines. Closing speed into turn 1 is about sort of 160, 170 miles an hour, depending on the car and class and everything. But just on the braking there, it just seemed he was just much more confident into turn 1. He knew exactly the right amount of pressure that he could be using, and he used that to his advantage to get that move done. And what you were saying about people being a bit hot-headed, about people seeing the red mist, you will definitely see it towards the further back, but we can see obviously Craig Hewlett has dropped down now into 3rd place behind Simone Massey. So Massey has finally made that move. We didn't quite catch where. What I was about to say is, obviously, the drivers at the front, they're going to have done this a little bit longer, which is why they're at the front. They've got a little bit more pace, they've got a little bit more experience, and they know when to push and when to not. In an endurance race, which this is, obviously we've got 15 minutes still on the clock. We've only done 10 minutes of this race. It's a long, long way to go. Being hot-headed is exactly how you lose positions and how you can lose the race overall. They managed to get away with that with the Porsche and the McLaren. But if you were to do that up at the front here, there are 5, 6, 7 very, very fast drivers right behind you waiting for you to make a mistake. And if you put one foot just slightly out of line, they will pounce. And that is why it is so tough up at the front, making the split-second decisions about when you make the move, when do you not, when do you hold back, and when do you push. That is why these drivers are at the front, and that is why they're in the pro class.
Yeah, and Craig here, I think he's starting to telegraph maybe the fact that he wants that position back. He has a back marker currently separating him and Verbrugge, which is going to be very helpful. It gives him just that little bit of breathing room to make a mistake if he does go for the move. He doesn't have that much time, though, to get the job done. He really would have liked to get it done into Lacacia on this lap, but that didn't happen. And now into the back chicane. There's a back marker as well. That's Kruger in the Ferrari in the 661. Potentially going to be playing actually a helping hand right now to the 69 Aston Martin, giving him a bit of a tow down the start-finish straight. He's going to move out of the way, presumably, and allow both of these leaders to fight on. At least that's the theory. The execution isn't quite the same. He holds the racing line, bottling up the Aston Martin, gets out of shape into the braking zone. Craig Hewlett doesn't know which way to go. A miscommunication from a blue flag, thankfully, didn't end in disaster, but certainly that could have ended in an airplane crash if the drivers weren't careful.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he wasn't 100% sure whether they were the leaders or people he was actually racing. It looked like he wasn't quite 100% sure about his decision to to not defend or to defend. We saw obviously going into turn 1, he just started to move across and then backed out of it quite quickly. I think he realised as he started to move that, oh no, I'm not racing these are the leaders coming through, I should probably get out of the way. Like I say, a bit of a communication error there, and probably just didn't see the blue flags. But these things happen, and Craig Hewlett and Simone Massey live to fight another day. But I think you're right, I think Craig is just starting to find that pace in the McLaren now. He's just starting to settle down, find where the grip is, and get his comfort level up, which is 9/10 really of every second. Just getting comfortable with the car, getting comfortable with the track, and you can see there he's just trying to take different lines than Simone, just to try and see where the grip is, and also perhaps just try and see, can he kind of unnerve Simone into making a mistake. I think at the moment Simone is looking pretty solid, just not making any mistakes, very solid in the choices that they're making about where to brake, where to turn, and the lines that he's taking as well. 6.9 Aston Martin coming around the final corner onto the start-finish straight, and I think he's just a little bit too far away this time around, so he's going to have to wait another couple of corners to at least have a chance at going after Simone.
Yeah, it might be another lap. It might be another 20 minutes down the line into the pit stop phase that these drivers end up changing the positions, but I do expect something to happen at some point between these two. They're about dead even on pace, except Simone actually last time around just that little bit quicker, a 148.96 compared to a 149.0. You may say, oh, he's in the 148s compared to the 149s. Yes, that might be true, but it is only, what, by maths, my commentator maths, 50-something thousandths of a second, so not necessarily the biggest margin separating these two drivers right now in terms of lap-to-lap pace, which I often love to say, and one of the reasons that I love GT racing to the extent that I do is how many motorsport series do you get to watch two different machines, a McLaren 720S with a big old V8, it's got a 720 horsepower, as the McLarens often do with their names, a 4-liter twin turbo. Now you compare that to the Aston Martin V8, which is actually a very similar engine in a 4-liter twin turbo, but generating only 535 brake horsepower. So like, what, 150 less horsepower, and they're still able to compete with each other, and that is just due to the wonderful nature of ballast. One of the things I love about GTs, and again, how often do you get to see a McLaren racing a Mustang, racing a Bentley, racing a BMW, racing a Porsche? It's just, you don't get to see that anywhere else in the world.
No, you definitely do not. Obviously, there is an awful lot of manufacturers in this grid today. But one thing that I have noticed is, obviously we've got Dixon up at the front in the Mustang, and he is completely gone by this point. We're looking on the map, as you can see on your right-hand side, and he's the number 94, going through the first couple of corners now, and he's now going through turn 3 as well. So he is completely driven away from it. But Simone Massey, obviously in the Aston Martin, got to Craig Hewlett in the McLaren, Krug in the Aston Martin behind, and McLaren of Yanis as well. So it's Aston Martin, McLaren, Aston Martin, McLaren. So the Aston Martins and the McLarens currently at the moment are quick. They don't quite have an answer to Dixon as it stands, but they are definitely best of the rest by the looks of it.
It definitely does seem that way, and I do want to check out, we have some other battles that have been developing. The Charging Bull of Ernst Limburg's down here in P20 currently, going for an overtake on a driver that hasn't made a pit stop yet, so this is a bit of a non-fight fight, and Ernest makes very easy work of that car. Interestingly, I'm seeing dry tires on for pretty much all the drivers. I think most of the drivers up front started on dries and pretty much everyone through. Now we can look at the rain. It's greasy track conditions, and over the next 30 minutes, it's going to continue at this exact same rate. The weather is looking pretty constant as it was in qualifying. Will the track start to develop standing water? That I don't know. Oh, but I do know that Craig Hewlett has gone for the overtake on Simone Massey. This has pretty much come out of nowhere. Hold on, let's go back and take a look at this. So here is Craig on the exit of what looks to be Lacacia, and out of shape goes the Aston Martin Simone Massey, and he hands that position over free like taking candy from a baby.
Yes, absolutely. And that's exactly what Craig was doing, as we spoke about a couple of laps ago. He was just trying to see if Simone would make a mistake. And sure enough, a couple of laps in, there we go. There is the mistake. And it's so easily done. But we did see that Hewlett was just starting to just pull away a little bit. Drop away a little bit from the back of that Aston Martin. We can see that Simone is right on the gearbox now of that 720 once again. So are we going to see a move into turn 4? It's possible, but I think Simone's probably just going to sit behind for the time being. Maybe if we're close enough at the end of the lap, go for a move into turn 1. It's not worth risking both their races to go for a balls to the wall move.
Oh, and there's the balls to the walls move immediately on cue to the inside of the 5th corner. Now it's the run all the way down towards Verth, up the hill of Comsa. The 69 can't get it alongside. Such a close move there, and a full commitment high-speed overtake. Not gonna happen this time, but that certainly got the audience on its toes. And now back onto the run towards Lacacia. Is this where it's going to happen? No. A little bit too far back, but this is where the mistake happened on the last lap. Not this time, though. Craig Hewlett, he isn't gonna be falling for that.
No, definitely not. I mean, that little mistake he made there probably came at the best point of the lap, because where Simone obviously went to the inside, he was offline. He wasn't on the rubbered-in racing line, and although it's raining, that still makes a difference. So Craig was just able to carry that additional speed round the outside and just keep the position ahead of Simone. He got very, very lucky there. If you're going to make a mistake at any point on the track, that is where you make it. We can see round the final corner onto the start-finish right now, and I think Simone is, just a little bit too far back from the back of that McLaren. So for this time around, at least, Hewlett is safe. We can see the Aston Martin of Verbrugge right behind them as well. He's not seen to be closing. He's not dropping back either. He just seems to be holding station for the time being. So is he preserving his tyres? Is he watching his pace? Is he flat out? We don't know, obviously. Hopefully he can join in this battle, and if they continue battling like they have been, then he definitely will be. 2 Aston Martins against the McLaren of Craig Hewlett.
Yeah, it's actually a really interesting observation with Gio, because he has been consistently slower, to be completely honest. Well, in terms of, even to Giannis, he's been consistently slower. And actually, speaking of Giannis, a battle between Matt Jordan now developing as we speak. But Gio there, at 149.3 to the 149.8 of Simone Massi and Craig Hewlett, they had a pretty much dead even lap time. No surprise there, as they are locking horns at the moment. So if Gio's just plugging away 5/10 every single lap, over the next, 4 laps, he should be pretty much right on the back of this battle, and we'll have a 3-way fight for second position. Miles Dixon loves to hear the sound of that. He pretty much has checked out of this race and is already pretty much, I would say, driving his way to the next race here for the championship, which is going to be over at Watkins Glen.
Yes, absolutely. He has completely just gone up off the road. He's gone up the road away from Craig Hewlett and Simone Massi, which obviously their battling will not have helped that gap either. But what we're watching here is obviously Giannis and Jordan in the Bentley and the BMW respectively, just starting to close up on Verbrugge, and I think Verbrugge is also starting to close up a little bit, ever so slightly, on the battle for second place. So we could possibly see, don't want to jinx anything here, but could possibly see a 5-way fight for second place, and that is why we love GT racing.
That's why we love HSR, and if you are interested to get yourself involved with this championship, !Discord, or you can head down to the description on the YouTube side of things and take a look there. Or actually, no, it hasn't been added. Well, it will be added, but if you want to join us for round 5, as I had mentioned, yes, the championship is getting down to the wire here. We're heading down towards Watkins Glen, and then Kyalami, then Indy, and then Silverstone, so still plenty of time to get your name out here in this amazing league. Sign-ups are available over on SimGrid. Head on down to the description to check, or to the Discord for more information there. Now, back to the fight at hand. Gio, last time around, exact same lap as Simone Massi and Craig Hewlett. So kind of equalizing right now. It doesn't seem like it's going to be those 4 laps that I predicted, but as you were saying, I'm 99% sure by the time we reach the end of pit phase, or at least by the time we're down to the final 10 minutes, we're going to have 5 drivers competing for second place right now.
Yes, absolutely. Obviously, we were talking about Yanis and Jordan. Both of them are extremely quick drivers. We cannot count out either of them, really. And, we've seen Jordan so far win at both Donington and at COTA as well. He's obviously going to want to try and make it 3 for 3. At the moment, it's not looking like that's going to be the case. Dixon has a pretty strong hold on first position. But we cannot count him out coming through the order. Speaking of that, Simone Massi is obviously still fighting with Craig Hewlett, but just doesn't seem to be getting quite as close. He's got quite close in the braking zone there, but for whatever reason, Craig just seems to be coming out that last corner with an absolute run compared to Simone. But Simone is right there now, coming through turn 3, up into turn 4 now. Can he get close enough to make a move? Not quite. He's not quite close enough. But Craig goes a little bit wide there and then cuts back in. I have spotted that Craig is doing that. Simone seems to be taking a much tighter line through each corner and rounding each corner off a lot more than Craig. Craig seems to be taking more of a V-shaped line. He seems to be going a little bit deeper, turning in at a slower speed, but then getting a better exit. That's definitely helping him on turn 16 coming out onto the final straight, but it seems to be helping him keep the charging Aston Martin of Simone Massi right behind him as well. So it's quite interesting. 2 different cars, 2 different drivers, and 2 different driving styles. We can see here exactly where the benefits and the not so good bits are coming here as well, because you can see Craig is just having to just defend into the tight left-hander of turn 10 there, coming through 11 and 12 as well. You can see as well, he just takes that slightly wider line and then cuts in for a better exit. And on that point, Simone has just copied him as well. So they're both trying different things. And while all this is happening, I don't know the gap. I think you might be able to see, Mike, but I think Gio might be a little bit closer.
A little bit. Again, he's plucking away. He's doing a consistent job of plucking away. Every single lap, he seems to just be getting just that little bit closer. This time, here is Simone Massi, though, well within the slipstream. 2/10 off into the braking zone. That forces Craig defensive down to the inside. He is going to be trying to cover this off, and he's going to run deep here, as you were mentioning there, Kieran. And that is basically just to cover him on the exit, as you said, especially in this next corner coming up. We'll explain it a bit more, because it does look like he's taking an off line there, but he's just taking the defensive line to make sure there's no overtaking opportunity. This time, though, he doesn't cover it. It's just a bit of a dummy, though, to be sold from Simone. Heck, even I fell for that one, to be honest. But on through Renault and into Repsol. Craig there, you can see him covering the outside line of Repsol, but it's covering the inside of seat, basically making it so there is no way for the Aston Martin to get on the inside and muscle his way on through. Sort of similar to what happened to Craig and how he got overtaken and lost that position. How Simone lost that position to begin with. He ran wide, got muscled out, and Craig took the position with both hands and walked away smiling since. But now on the run again, back down towards Lacacia. Still not close enough, but this is where things start to get interesting. We have a conversation of back markers now. Do you pit if you're Craig Hewlett?
It's a definitely interesting point, and yeah, they are. I mean, if we look at the map at the top right-hand corner there, you can see there was quite a few different drivers in front of them, and both of them still do have to pit. So it's an interesting point. To be honest, if I was Simone, I would do the exact opposite of what Craig is going to do now, getting into this traffic. If Craig doesn't go, but he does. So Simone has done exactly that. Simone has carried on. Craig has pitted. So here we go. This is where it gets interesting, because now Simone has been released. We've seen Simone has been slightly marginally quicker a little bit than Hewlett as well. So Hewlett's got to have an extraordinarily good outlap to try and just keep ahead of the Aston Martin of Simone. And Simone's got to have an extremely good in-lap. Now, what do you do now? Do you pit on the next lap around? Or do you leave it a few laps? Just try to extend a little bit. Just believe that you got the pace and just to try and keep it. What would you do?
I mean, if you're Simone, you pretty much have no choice but to pit. You're going for the opposite strategy. As the race goes on, your tire wear is going to get worse and worse. You're going to start graining, blistering. This is one of the very high tire wear circuits, and graining can certainly become an issue, especially we're on a 24-degree track temp, or excuse me, we're on 24-degree ambient temp and a 29-degree track temp. So it's surprisingly warm despite the fact that it looks like it's wet and it looks like it would be cold, but this isn't the case. These drivers are still going to be facing quite a bit of wear. They're on the dry tires and it's a wet track, so it won't be as exaggerated as if it was a dry circuit, but it's still, you're going to be losing time every single lap if you are Simone, and you just have to go in pretty much and call the pit stop of Craig Hewlett. Come out ideally ahead, especially if the back marker ahead of him, who has already pit, he's going to have to negotiate through these drivers here relatively soon, and I think he just doesn't want to deal with that. Will cost him time. The question, though, also, where'd Craig Hewlett come out? Nah, he came out in clean air. Yeah, you want to just pit. Simone here should be coming into pit lane right on the exit of this corner. He doesn't. Wow, interesting. All right, prove me wrong. I called one strategy right, but Simone, he's gambling.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to be fair, looking at the map, the back markers are distancing themselves out a little bit more now, so he could possibly still get some decent running in. But yeah, he needs to pit sooner rather than later. We've got Michael Topinka in the chat as well saying Massey needs to cover Craig, and that's exactly what you are thinking as well. I'm split, to be honest, as whether that's a good idea to or not, because we've seen that when he gets in front of Craig and he doesn't make a mistake, he can start to pull away a little bit. So is it actually beneficial for Simone to stay out a little bit, just try to build that gap a little bit more? Depending on obviously how well he's kept his tyres, that is a big factor that we are going to need to be talking about. Has he kept his tyres enough to make this strategy work for an extra couple of laps and jump Craig in the pit stops? Only time will tell. And like I said, Craig's come out in clean air, so he's not going to get any slipstream, but he's also not going to be hindered.
Yeah, and, let's just take a look at lap times, because that's obviously the immediate piece of statistic that we have to look at. Last time around was a 149.6 for Simone Massey. And looking down at Craig Hewlett, he was on his outlap, so we're still actually going to have to wait one more time here before we figure out what Craig is lapping. But if Craig's lapping within 4/10 slower than that lap, then I would say he would have lost the position almost certainly, as Simone just hasn't caught the traffic that we were expecting. The back markers were very generous to him, and he did get by with ease, so not too much of a hindrance. He stays out another lap. I don't know. We'll see. I think I'm with Mikel Topinka in chat in terms of I think he's pushing it at this point, and I think he is only going to be losing time. We also had Stratos over on the Twitch chat, joining us. Welcome, Stratos, and hope you are having a lovely evening, afternoon, or morning, wherever you are in this fine world. Let us know, chat, what would you have done in this situation? Would you have gone in for a pit stop? Would you have stayed out and gambled for the overcut here at Barcelona? Let us know. What would you have done? Giannis Mayer, he's elected and said, enough's enough. My tires are done. I want a fresh set of boots, and he is in for his stop.
Yes, absolutely. And Jordan has stayed out by the looks of it. So Jordan still is yet to pit, as is obviously Simone. And am I still right in thinking that Dixon hasn't yet pitted? I believe he's still out front, so he's still yet to pit as well. So there's still a couple of drivers towards the front. Here we go. Miles Dixon, currently in the 94 of the Ford Mustang, out in front. And yeah, he still is yet to pit. He has, what is it, so 10 seconds?
Yeah,
no, 20
11.
second gap. 11 seconds. Is that
he's
over?
11
oh, yes,
to Simone
yes.
right now.
Yes, so he's 11 seconds ahead of Simone. So what does he do? I mean, obviously he's got enough of a gap to pit whenever he wants, but why would he be waiting longer than, why would he pit later than earlier on? Is he waiting for traffic because he might be about to reach them?
Speaking of hold that thought, because this is an exciting battle that just popped out of the pit stops here. Ernst Limbers, who went for a much earlier stop, he pit about 25 minutes ago at the start of this race. That was the wrong button. He pit 25 minutes ago at the start of this race. He did take tires, so he is going to be on 25-minute-old rubber pretty much at this point. Yannis Mayer comes out right behind and locked onto the back bumper of the Lamborghini. Yannis on the fresh and cold tires needs to get him up to temperature before he can get the overtake. In fact, I'm curious as well. Electing for the dry tires. Ernst Limber's also on the dry tires, so that is an even keel in that field. However, again, it's down to the time of wear, and Ernst much older tires. We're going to be, I would imagine, seeing Yannis get by on the start-finish straight. But to answer your question about the overcut strategy, you'll have fresher tires later on in the race to make overtakes, but I get the track position argument. First off, if you are Miles Dixon, you can pit on the last lap, you can pit now, it doesn't really matter. Miles Dixon just has to not mess up. That's all he has to do in order to secure himself the victory. There's no, he's gotten it. He's pretty much got the writing on the walls at this point, barring a mistake. He went in for his stop on this lap, and he is back out well ahead of Simone Massey, well ahead of Matt Jordan, and well ahead of pretty much everybody, Verbruchy as well, who is currently leading this race at the stage, but Miles now with a 7 and a bit second gap over Craig. 11 and gaining. It's gaining. It's quite a bit. Yeah, Miles Dixon, he's checked out, and again, on his way over to New York and heading down towards Watkins Glen already.
Yes, indeed. Now, I did spot on the map there, I believe Simone has come into the pits, and Craig has stayed ahead of Simone, so that overcut strategy hasn't quite worked for Simone, and in fact there is an even bigger gap. So yes, you were right, as was Mikhail Topinka as well. You were both correct. I was completely wrong there. That is why I do not gamble, because I usually get it wrong. But he's now going to try and close up to the back of Craig once again. The gap is looking, well, is it a couple of seconds by the looks of it? I think it's a couple of seconds. I'm sorry, I'm trying to work off the leaderboard on the screen that you are all seeing as well.
ACC timing is notoriously accurate.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So still trying to work it out, but yeah, I think it's a couple. Yeah, there we go. Perfect shot there. We can see Craig Hewlett right in the front of your shot there, and then 2 cars back. There is Simone just lapping the Ferrari. There we go, the number 69 Aston Martin. So you can now see Craig right in front of him. Look at that gap. That is what the overcut has done for Massey. He has dropped away from Craig, and I don't know if you can see the lap times there, Mike. Be interested to know what their lap times have been. What has the difference in their performance been since Craig came out of the pits?
Craig has been pretty much dead on consistent this entire race. His last lap was a 1:48.8, this lap a 1:49.5, so a little bit off the... In fact, I think that's his slowest lap yet, and pretty much slower than most of the people around. Simone Massey out of pit stop, so a 2:50 was, I think, exactly what Craig had when he was done with his pit stop. Very typical there. Simone Massey for a just getting out of a pit stop time. Nothing to worry about, except for the fact that he has Gio Verbruchy ahead, who is on brand new tires, just came out of the pit stop, and now is going to be thwarting his performance in terms of getting to the back of Craig Hewlett once again. Massey has the tires, though, as this race goes on. That's something to keep in mind. Craig Hewlett went in earlier, so he will be wearing quicker than Simone. However, is it going to be quick enough? That is the question. And if Simone gets caught up in battles like this, having to defend from Ernst Limberg's as well as overtake Gio Verbruchy, that tire advantage is going to turn to a disadvantage very quick when Craig Hewlett is currently just lifting and coasting. He's managing his tires, managing his fuel, and just keeping everything calm, cool, and collected, as that's what he needs to do at this stage. He's got 11 and a half seconds to Miles Dixon. Pretty much no chance of catching him barring a mistake from the Ford Mustang, so he's just worrying about his own race, which is exactly what he needs to do.
Absolutely, and we can see obviously Gio Verbruchy has just come out in 4th place ahead of Simone, so the overcut did not work for Simone, it did work for Gio. And what we've seen all race long is he's just chipping away. He's not making mistakes. He's pushing the car exactly where he needs to be. He's not doing anything he shouldn't be doing. He's just driving to his own limit. He's got the very fast-paced Simone Massey right behind him, but he's not cracking. He's right there. But coming onto this start-finish race, I can't help but wonder, is Simone going to be a little bit frustrated, see the red mist like we were talking about earlier, and just go for that move to try and catch up to Craig Hewlett? I think he might be. Here we go, into turn 1, and Yeah, there we go, finally. So, Gio does not even begin to defend against Simone. So Simone goes through quite easily, actually. So is his tactic going to be here? Yeah, so is his tactic going to be here? Okay, let Simone go through. He might be a little bit quicker and just cling onto the back and let him drag you up to the back of Craig Hewlett.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it must be. Or just Gio. I wonder if they have a Discord call and they're working. I mean, Gio was significantly quicker on his outlap as well, at 2:47 compared to the 2:50 that we saw from Simone Massi. So a whole 3 seconds in terms of pit stop faster. But now he's feeling the pressure from Ernst Limburg's behind. I wonder if that's what he was playing towards, is saying, I know that Simone is faster than me. I know I can't fight this, and I would just be wasting my tires long-term in terms of fighting this pack behind, because this is all for position. Every single one of these drivers in the background there is trying to claw their way up the field. And just speaking of clawing their way up the field, Yannis Mayer has clawed up 6 positions so far in this race. He's looking to make it a 7th onto the bull. Is he going to happen this time around? Into Lacacia, gets it stuck alongside, and that's a mistake from Limburg's. And up into 6th, the 777 has now gained 7 positions. Some say that's fate, some say it's a curse. We'll find out soon enough. He's looking to make it his 8th.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, this is a train of very, very fast drivers. From Jordan, obviously, right at the very back, we've seen how quick he can be. From Limburg's in the Lamborghini, from Yannis in the McLaren as well. All these drivers are extremely quick. So we can see there that the Gio has just got his mirrors are filled of fast drivers. He has got to really sort of watch himself now, because like you said, this is all for position. None of these are lap cars. None of them have to pit anymore. Everyone is on the same lap. They're fighting for the same bit of tarmac. And we can see here Matt Jordan just trying to find a way around that Lamborghini, but not quite just yet. Coming into turn 4 now. Can he make a dive? No, he's actually... Oh, that's interesting. Limburg's goes a little bit too wide. Matt Jordan up the inside. Now they're going to have a straight fight into turn 5. Down into the braking zone. Who's quicker on the brakes? There we go. Limburg keeps the position ahead of Matt Jordan. And while all this is happening, you've got Yannis closing up on Gio a little bit further ahead, and that gap is only growing. So Matt Jordan needs to get past Limburg's as quickly as possible if he wants to continue his fight with Yannis. And here we go into the inside of turn 9. But, Limburg's just managed to hold around the outside. He just managed to hold that momentum, hold that Bentley right behind him. And that is some fantastic driving. And you can see the gap there as Matt Jordan just had to back out of it just a little bit. And that has completely ruined his run down the straight into turn 10, 11 and 12. As you can see, he's just about caught up now. So I think Limburg's tyres are really going off now, and he is fighting for his life to keep that charging Bentley behind him.
Yeah, I have to agree with you wholeheartedly. Here we go, on through the final chicane, shooting yourself onto the start-finish straight. Yannis Mayer, this is his opportunity. This is the chance that he's been waiting for. In the slipstream, about 4/10 is the gap. It's a bit of a task to surmount. Can he do it? No, not this time around. He's just a little bit too far back unless he goes for the late lunge. The same can't be said, though, for the Bentley and the Lamborghini. Matt Jordan getting alongside. The Lamborghini covers the racing line there. Turns to the advantage, though, for the Bentley on the next part of the apex, but a lovely defense from Ernst Limburg's. Now, on the run down towards Repsol, has to do exactly what he did on the previous lap. Park yourself on the racing line. Don't allow the Bentley alongside for not this part, but the next part of the corner. So we're going to see the Lamborghini run a little bit wide here and open that line up. Allows the Bentley a little sniff of daylight, but there is no daylight to be found. He's covering off that next part of the corner, which he runs wide through, actually, and makes a bit of a mistake there. Can he hold on? I don't know if he can at this point. I thought he had executed it perfectly, but up into Verth, the Bentley muscles his way alongside, some bumping and banging. The Lamborghini onto the accelerator. Limburg's, can he hold on? The momentum should be in favor for the charging bull, and he keeps it for now, but on the run down towards Lacacia. The inside line is defended. Can we see him sticking around the outside? Goes the Bentley. Jordan onto the curbs. goes side by side once more. More contact at the apex, and it ends in tears. Both drivers stranded in the kitty litter. Need to be careful on the rejoin. My goodness. What an exciting battle, and what a terrible way to end.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there might have been a little bit of netcode there as they went through that that little turn 11 and turn 12 entry. I don't think it was necessarily either one of them sort of pushing a little bit too far. I think they were leaving each other just like the tiniest amount of racing room, just enough. And I think the netcode just made a little bit of a touch there. A racing incident, I'd say, unfortunately, for both of them, for it to end that way. But
I'm gonna have to disagree. We'll have to agree to disagree on that one. We'll leave that one up to the stewards. Okay. I think the Bentley went a little aggressive on the curb there, from my looks of it. I think he caught some air, it unsettled his car at the apex, and he kind of lost control. I think it was a little bit aggressive of a look. But, you know, like I say, we'll leave that one up to the stewards and see how they decide it. We have another exciting battle going on. It's the Orange Machines down in P13 right now. Battle for 12th. Casadilla and Hosco. And already, look at the defensive line from the Ford Mustang GT3. Not sure you need to cover that hard. But either way, if it's stupid and it works, it ain't stupid.
I don't think it's stupid at all.
Well, I agree.
Riding the pit wall, it's a well-used tactic, especially here in Barcelona. We've seen it many, many times, and it also means that if the people are coming out of the pits, it can be very, very tricky. But fortunately, all the pit stops, I think, barring Fox in the 80 McLaren, I think everyone else has pitted. So, yes, we've got these two currently, Hosco and Cassidy, in the Ford and the BMW respectively. But Hosco just gets around the outside of turn 5, just sticks past the Ford Mustang of Cassidy there. Cassidy just sliding a little bit wide on the exit of turn 4. And this is what's happening now. We are 45 minutes into this race. People are going to start making mistakes. These are physical. These are physical races. You've got to remember that most of the drivers are going to be driving with a direct drive wheel. They're going to be forcing the wheel left, right, every single corner, and 45 minutes in, it's sweaty, it's difficult work, as Mark Hennebury in the Honda NSX currently just trying to find a way around that Bentley of Newtlings as well. It's a tricky car to get around, but Newtlings in that little NSX, he's just dropped away a little bit actually down the straight. So the Bentley clearly is better on the straight lines. Either that or Noodling's just got a little bit of a better exit. But I'd say through this little corner complex now, the NSX, I'm sure, will go past. That was interesting.
It's just a casual Honda NSX line. Pay no mind to the man behind the curtain, Mark Hanbury there. You know, doing what he can. The Bentley takes the lead, or takes the advantage, I should say.
I'm a bit stuck for words there. I genuinely did not know what happened. It didn't look like he got oversteer, unless that was just the lag that didn't show us any oversteer, because he just seemed to just pull off and then start again. So.
Yeah, I'm not sure. The Honda's it's a tricky beast. This is one of the more difficult cars to drive out there, and it can just do some weird things sometimes. And I wanted to see the side-by-side between the Bentley and the Honda, because I had some very clever things and some nice things to say about that, because you don't get to see that ever on ACC, at least anymore. The Honda NSX is sort of a relic, you might say. Obviously, everybody that was around back in 1.7 knows that was the car of choice. Everybody, this was the meta for the longest time, the Honda NSX, until they nerfed it, or 1.8 came out, and then the car was pretty much undrivable for the most part when the physics change happened. And the Bentley, sort of just an outdated machine, you know? It's a car that you don't really see too often anymore, unfortunately. It's got the steering wheel on the incorrect side of the car, but, you know, we pay no mind to that. That doesn't actually affect performance. But as the British man next to me shakes his head, and the American smiles gleefully, either way. But no, the Bentley is a car that you just don't get to see too much anymore, and I love to see the fights between the old cars, the old dogs, going at it once more.
Yes, I'm going to skip over. Oh, the Ferrari gets collected
going
there.
At it. What is it?
Yeah,
all right.
Mark Jackson.
So this is Mark Jackson, as you said, down into the braking zone. Let's see exactly what happens. So we're already a little offline here and trying to get back on. Okay. right. It's a difficult one to dissect, to be completely honest.
Yeah, it was a bit of nip and tuck from both of them, I'd say, to be honest. It was... that's a shame, really, for it to end that way. Never mind, Mark Jackson gets running once again in the Ferrari, the 323, just going down towards turn 1 there. That's a tricky one to dissect, like you say. I mean, yes, he made the mistake initially, but he was entitled to the racing room, and I feel that he was just pushed a little bit initially, which meant he went onto the grass, and then once you're on the grass, slick tyres, wet grass, you have no control. It is essentially an ice rink.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what he was doing on the apex. Like I said, I'm not saying what he was doing was wrong. I just would need to see that one again. That was just a confusing one, and I would not want to be a steward reviewing that. That's, I guess, my proptosis is, I am unsure on that one. That was a very kind of just like watching a car slide down a hill in an ice storm. It was very much, you could see everything happening and unfolding and just couldn't really stop it.
Yes, absolutely. It's, yeah, it's a shame for it to happen that way, but regardless of that, up towards the front, I have just spotted, is Massey less than a second away from Hewlett?
Correct? No. Vibruhi is currently less than a second away from Massey.
I must be reading that wrong then. Yeah,
you're right.
Okay,
you're not actually reading it wrong. It's just that ACC timings are incorrect. You are reading that correctly. The gap is currently about 2.5 seconds, according to ACC TV.
Okay, so he's closed up a little bit, because it was 4 seconds, I believe, when Simone came out of the pits. I think it was 4 seconds. So they closed up a little bit, but 10 minutes still remaining, and I mean, Simone got a bit of a gap between himself and Gio in the Aston Martin right behind, but I feel Gio is just starting to come back into this now. And could we see a last sort of 10-minute battle for the podium between the two Aston Martins? I think it's definitely on the cards. And if Craig continues to just fall back into the clutches of Simone, once we reach the slipstream point, then he could drag both those Aston Martins into his train, and then who knows what could happen for the final 2 spots on that podium. The first spot is almost solidified. I don't want to be a commentator curse, but he is gone up the road, essentially. So really, realistically, what we're looking at, here we go now, Miles Dixon in the number 94 Ford Mustang is just in a world of his own. He is just Sunday driving to the end of this race. He's probably singing to himself as well. He's that comfortable out in the lead and completely blissfully unaware of the fighting that is going on behind him.
You might say that Miles Dixon is miles away from the rest of the pack. And Craig Hewlett trying to do what he can to at least minimize it to the best of his ability, but Simone Massey looking to punch holes in that plan, and Gio Vibruhi would like to join himself. Now, 1.5 seconds is the gap, and as we have pointed out in chat, Makulto Pinka is saying Craig should be struggling due to the fact that he pit earlier, and you are 100% correct. Craig is 23 minutes out of his pit stop. Simone Massey, 17 minutes. Gio Vibruhi, 15 minutes. About 7 minutes, so give or take about 3 to 4 laps different on the tires. And as the time rolls on here, Craig is going to be struggling more and more. Last time around, a 150.0. That's his slowest lap of the session. There's no other way of sandbagging it. Simone Massey, 148.5, a second and a half quicker. Guess what the gap is currently to Craig Hewlett? You guessed it, a second and a half.
Yeah, he's definitely closing in, and I think, to be honest, now that Simone has just sniffed the back of that McLaren, he's found another bit of pace. You could just fact check that for me as they come across the line just to see. But if you look, he's definitely closed on Craig, and he's definitely pulled away from Gio. Now, Gio might have had a bad lap as well. And yeah, that last lap was almost identical to his best lap in the session so far. I think he's just got onto the back of Craig now, and he's like, right, assault number, 5,378, I think it is for these two in this race so far. This is not over yet. We've still got 9 and a bit minutes left of racing. Craig is not safe in P2. Simone is not safe in P3. If Gio can get up there, we've also got a couple of people in the chat as well saying Yanis could even come into this. Now, he's still a few seconds back, but if these start fighting, and we know how quickly that can happen, there's no telling how quickly Yanis could catch up. So it's still all to play for. Anything could happen. What are your predictions? I asked you at the start of the race, and you said about Jordan. Jordan is currently down in 6th place, a fair few seconds away, so I think he's possibly out of it now for the podium battles. We've got people in the chat saying that Massey is probably looking a little bit better to overtake Craig for P2. Other people saying Craig is better to hold the position. What is your prediction?
You know, I'll just have to go with the late, great Murray Walker, and what he said is, we all know it's one thing to catch, and it's certainly another thing to overtake, and especially here at Barcelona, that's absolutely the case. With the fact on this final chicane, it just evens out the run on the start-finish straight way too much. You can't carry the speed more than your opponent necessarily, and slingshot yourself onto the start-finish straight like you can in Formula 1. And that right there from Simone was an abysmal exit. That was not what he needed. He needed pretty much the best lap of his life this time around, and instead he loses half of a second in one corner. Craig Hewlett looking good, looking consistent. I'm going to find it hard-pressed for him to lose this position, barring a mistake. I think if he makes a mistake, obviously, then yeah, he'll lose the position. But if Craig can keep all 4 tires between the mayo and the mustard for the next 7.5 minutes, I think he should be able to finish in 2nd position.
Yeah, he definitely looks quite stable at the moment, but I think that what we've just seen from their fastest laps that they've just been doing, Simone was about 3/4 tenths a lap quicker than Craig was. So I think Craig is, managing a bit. And like we're also saying, there's definitely going to be the element of tyre wear because, Simone pitted a good few laps later. So his tyres are going to be a little bit newer, a little bit fresher, a little bit more grippy as a result. So 0.7 of a second difference between the two of them. Simone can sniff that P2 place of Craig Hewlett. Craig is just trying to wistfully try and get away a little bit from Simone, just try and hold position, try keep all 5 tyres on the track, like you say, not make any mistakes, not take any curbs too much, not brake too late, not brake too early, just try and do exactly how he's been doing it. We got Michael Topinka in the chat saying Craig can handle it, but not sure if he can for the whole 8 minutes. Well, it's 6 minutes now still to go. Doesn't look any closer into the clutches of Simone. So, and he seems to be getting that exit, which was a very, very crucial exit of turn 16 down the start-finish straight. He seems to be consistently nailing that every single time, and that possibly is the most important corner to nail for him on the track for the next 5 minutes. Get that corner right, and he is one hand on that 2nd place trophy.
Yeah, I sense a bit of some foreshadowing, or maybe not foreshadowing, but I sense a bit of Ayrton Senna and Nigel Mansell battling back in 1991 when this track first came out. They had a photo finish practically at the line to determine who won the first race of the Barcelona de Catalunya Grand Prix. Now, of course, we're not battling for the race win here, but as far as we're concerned, we are. This is the highest position on track. It's P2, and Dixon is in a league of his own, to be completely honest, 22 seconds ahead of Craig Hewlett right now, not really even in the conversation of drivers to, he's amazing, doing an amazing job. I don't think there's anything else to say. The Ford Mustang GT3 clearly is quite good on this circuit, and he is showing that. But now, with 4.5 minutes left, as you said, there's not much changes happening. However, the back markers, is this going to play the role? I'm pretty sure these drivers have seen these back markers at one point in time already. Let's see who's ahead of them. It's Ben Knight down in 23rd position, as well as Tony Rucroft, and they're in a fight of their own. David Llanos ahead of them by about 70 seconds, so not much to worry about there. But the 27 and the 555 could potentially play a role in deciding this bottom or the 2nd seat of the podium.
Yeah, I mean, we just saw Craig just took a little bit too much curb there, and that one mistake has just cost him a chunk of time. He needs to get this exit now because Simone is right there. He is in the slipstream. He's using all of the available track, and Craig hugs the pit wall to try and stop Simone in the Aston Martin. Simone is just closing ever so slightly, ever so slightly. He's going to make a move into the first corner. They're going on slightly different lines there, and then Craig is just going to be a little bit compromised through the turn 2 and turn 3 complex. So could there be a move into turn 4 for Simone Massey? We see Craig there just not quite taking that inside line, probably just to try and maximise speed, maximise momentum out of the corner. He's just trying to keep that Aston Martin right behind him. Simone is just trying to look left, right, every which way, see if he can convince Craig to make a mistake as well. We see Craig here, it's going to stick to the left hand side of the track, just push Simone over to the right, and Simone can try and cut back a little bit, but Craig is doing an incredible job there of just making sure he's putting the car exactly where it needs to be, coming through the kink of turn 6 and turn 7 now, through the left-hander, through the right-hander of turn 8. It looks like Simone is just still solidly on the rear gearbox of that McLaren. We can see there, through that right-hander of turn 9 as well, Craig just managed to take a little bit of time out of Simone, so he seems to be a bit quicker in the faster corners, whereas Simone seems to have a little bit more strength in the slower corners, which, if you check your map, we're about to enter quite a few of them.
Yeah, the problem with that, though, is the dirty air on this circuit and the overtaking chances are low, but when you lose the back end because of a back marker, that could be the difference between second and third. Craig, what a save, holds on to it there despite all odds. Another back marker, just for good measure. He manages to negotiate that piece of tarmac without issue. However, did that compromise his run? Did that allow Simone Massey to get a good enough exit and a good enough run down the start-finish straight? He very well may have Craig squeezing the inside, and Simone weaving around like a knitting grandma, tries to commit to the outside. It's gonna have to be the long way round for Simone. He gets it parked alongside, and there's contact at the apex. Both drivers end in tears and into the barrier. The winner, Giova Bruhi, out of all of the drivers, sat himself down in 4th position, has placed himself perfectly for the drivers to come together in the most spectacular fashion.
Absolutely, and behind that as well, I want to see Yannis Mayer. Is he now in 3rd position? Am I seeing that correct?
He is.
He is. He has taken 3rd position, and this is exactly what the guys in the chat were talking about, because with Craig Hewlett and Simone Massey just fighting left, right and centre, it got a little bit too heated, and both of them have now dropped out of the podium places and been replaced by Giova Brug and Yannis Mayer, both of which have driven impeccable races. They might not have been the outright quickest, but in a race like this, it's not about outright speed that matters, it's consistency. It's not making mistakes, and guess what? Neither of them have.
Yeah, that was incredible. Yannis Mayer, he needs to not make a mistake getting around the back markers himself. He's getting caught up and bottlenecked heavily there. Not going to be too much of an issue. He has a decent gap to Craig Hewlett, but here is the deja vu situation for Craig and Simone. They say, wait a second, I've seen the back of these cars before. How did I get into this situation? Oh, wait, that's right, a punch to the face. Now, both drivers getting by, no issue. Yannis gets by the other back marker, no issue. Rucroft doing a good job again, in a very similar position to the final lap, or to the previous lap. He finds Craig Hewlett and Simone Massey once again battling each other in his rear view mirror. Repeat again, deja vu. Craig Hewlett covering the inside line. Simone Massey takes the outside, has to commit late onto the brakes. This is where the contact ensued previously, but this time around, discretion is a little bit more of the better part of valor, and both drivers live to tell the tale once more. But the driver to really tell the tale tonight is Miles Dixon, who is, again, I've said it once, I'll say it again, miles at this point ahead of the field.
Yes, absolutely. He has drove an impeccable race. We're talking about consistency, about not making mistakes. Well, there's another driver who hasn't. It is Miles Dixon. He has driven absolutely to perfection as he is coming round the last couple of corners for the final time in this race. He has just driven away with this. And I mean, we can only sort of watch in awe as what he's done in this last hour has just basically completely shown up every other driver on the grid. Every other driver has done a fantastic job. They put on a fantastic show for us. But come around the final corner, Miles Dixon has been best of every single driver out there. He takes the win. He takes those points. Take a bow, Miles Dixon.
Absolutely. Free agent. That is a bit of an understatement, I would say, as he is going to be a high-value market competitor as these races continue. Gio Vabruhi next to the line, and he is going to be questioning himself how he made this dream happen. But either way, P2 is where he is going to land after qualifying in 7th position. He gains 5 positions to finish in 2nd. Giannis Mayer, 10 positions gained from 13th to take home the final seat of the podium. And of course, the talk of the town and the talk for the next few weeks, Craig Hewlett and Simone Massey. 4th for Craig in the number 4. Some say that's a curse, some say it's fate. You never know. Simone Massey, though, he is going to be gutted himself down in 5th position after what was a controversial penultimate lap.
Yes, absolutely. We had a few controversial moments. Obviously, if we remember Jordan and I can't remember who it was earlier. Was it? No, it wasn't Lindbergh's. Who was it? I can't quite remember now. My brain is not working at all. But so we've had a few controversial moments in this race. But overall, it's been a fantastic race. It really has been. And we can see the McLaren there of Giannis Mayer just doing donuts. And can you absolutely blame him? He had to come through. He's had to do the hard work, and he picked up the pieces when there were mistakes up ahead. He couldn't pick up the pieces without driving an impeccable race himself. So I think the top 3 on the podium is all deserved all around from all 3 of them.
Indeed, and Mark Neutling as well, finishing off 1st in the silver category and 1st for Ozdaru as well, who Emery Ozdaru has just been dominant in the AM category, it is to be said. I would not be surprised to see the 243 come in as a pro-AM driver in the next series. What is the cameraman doing? Either way, that was I've never seen that before. That was pretty cool. But again, the talk of the town, Simone Massey and Craig Hewlett. I am looking forward to seeing the race chats afterwards as we head out of the session before my game crashes. And we get to the B-roll of Barcelona once more. But my goodness, what a race, it has to be said, all the way through and through. The mid-pack, not too many battles in the middle of the race, but in the front, absolute knife fight in a phone booth from start to finish.
Yes, indeed. So obviously, these drivers, they're from all over the world. They've got all sorts of different experience levels and everything, but they come together and they put on a fantastic show like we've just seen. And I mean, it's a privilege to be commentating alongside you, to call the action. It's been a fantastic race. It really has been.
Absolutely. The pleasure is mine, Kieran. And of course, if you are looking to get in this championship yourself, !Discord in the Twitch side of things, and hopefully we will get it added to the YouTube description here soon. I'm curious, does it work on YouTube? Let's find out, shall we? No, it doesn't. Worth a shot. Either way, you can find the links to the Discord. I'll post them right now. Why don't I just get the link from Twitch and then post it in the YouTube side of things? That sounds like the logical thing to do if you are interested in joining the HSR community. There you go. There's the link in the YouTube chat if you guys are interested. Head on down, get involved on this championship as we get ready to head to the Glen next week. We're heading over to my home country, New York, and I am looking forward to that circuit myself. I love me some Glen.
That could be taken 2 different ways, but yes, the Watkins version is great, and it should be a good race. I'm curious, do you know if we're using the boot or not?
We are, yes.
Oh, excellent. So that's always an interest. Yeah, excellent. So that's always an interesting layout. I'm personally not very good at that layout, but then again, I'm not racing, so it doesn't really matter. But yes, it should be a good one next week, and I believe we'll both see you. Oh, sorry, we'll both see all of you next time as well.
Indeed, we will. And on that note, folks, I hope everybody has had a lovely evening, afternoon, or morning, wherever you are in this fine world. I've been Mike Noss. Alongside me tonight, Kieran Mogg, the real-life karting legend commentator. Hope everyone has a lovely evening, afternoon, or morning, wherever you are in this fine world. Again, thank you, and good night.